Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I didn't want to touch on this topic until Nexon, kind of had their chance, but basically, if you were around, I want to say last week, or if you've basically been on Maple Reddit or any, what do you call it? Any, forum that talks about Maplestory at all, Nexon last week pretty much announced that they were going to remove 2x drop cards on the premise that it was a non-popular item. This was probably one of the most, you know, backlashed announcements they've made just because at the time of the announcement it was such blatant um untruth, like miscommunication, like false information, whatever, or not entirely the story. But basically, last week they said that the 2x cards were being removed, or 2x drop coupons were going to be removed from the cash up because they weren't popular. Um, they just released an update 32 minutes ago, and basically they said that when they announced it, they reviewed the data of the drop, and 2x drop cards only made up about 0.28% of the total item sales of the entire cash shop. Well, that seems wrong. If you guys are mostly reboot players and don't really play regular server, basically a 2x drop card is a final absolute multiplicative of your drop rate. So mesos, say it was a 5k meso bag drops, it automatically brings it up to 10k. Um, and players knew because everybody who played regular server in Barra, Scania, Aurora, and Elysium knows that every single week, players who do weekly bosses, players who farm, um, players that do daily bosses even pretty much buy a 2x drop card just to increase their odds of getting a boss drop, cubes, or farming mesos, node stones, and drops, etc. And basically today they announced that the biggest thing is they overlooked purchase data. So they only looked at 2x drop cards that were bought with um, prepaid NX and didn't account for the purchases of these items through Maple Points. And they corrected themselves here when they say when they include purchases we've made with Maple Points, the sale of 2x drop cards account for 2.11% of the total item purchases. This is almost a 10x purchase popularity of total sales of total item sales overall and for the entire cash shop. This one, or I guess two items makes up about 2% of it. And if you guys don't know, let me pull up Maplestory real quick. Um, so you should be able to see my Maplestory. I don't know why you cannot. Oh, there it is. If I were to go into the cash shop, just on the initial game page. So here's the cash shop. Just on this initial game page right here, there's about what 4, 8, 12, 24. What is this? 24 plus 12, 36, 48, 60, almost 72 items, 71 items, right? And these two items account for 2.1% of the total sales. Now, take into account all of the items in the outfits, the multiple sections, take into account, oh, I guess beauty has much less items, but think of these face expressions, enhancement, everybody knows enhancements, other special items, their packages, their pets. Hundreds, maybe even 1,000 items in this cash shop, and they basically announced that um, you know, these were not popular enough, but these teleport rocks that take you that literally do not work, um, are worth staying. So it was very, very quick to get backlash from the community, and rightfully so, because of how much of an impact these drop cards have on the game. Now, Nexon pretty much announced that there really was an ulterior motive behind their removal. And basically, they say that I think in the latter two paragraphs, and I'll just read that out loud. And it says, unlike the other items in the list to be removed, 2x drop coupons have had an additional factor that contributed to the decision for its discontinuation. The removal of 2x drop coupons were based on two factors: our incorrect understanding of their usage trends, the 0.28% of total item sales, and their impact on game balance. These coupons have had a multiplicative stacking function, as I previously mentioned, and this allows the drop increase bonus to be much higher than what would be healthy for the game. We incorrectly assessed that the removal of the coupons would not have had a notable impact on the players and gameplay, and we have determined that a detailed message on the full context of the removal may not be warranted with what we thought was an indication of low usage trends for these coupons. We clearly made the wrong decision to present information this way, and without providing you with the full reasoning behind the discontinuation, and they deeply apologize for this miscommunication. Now, they also continue to say that we know that the 2x drop coupons are used more frequently by players than we initially assessed, of course, and we reviewed the removal of these coupons with the accurate data once more. Even when reviewing the situation with the accurate data, the impact these coupons have on the game balance still remains a concern. Due to this overarching concern, we believe it's best for the long-term health of the game to proceed with the discontinuation of these coupon sales during the update, blah, 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 blah. And they apologize for the miscommunication. Now, I read this statement and I think two things. One, they're kind of contradicting themselves. By saying that these items were initially a low, what was it? A low popularity item, how would it have such a big, unhealthy impact on this game if nobody was buying them anyways? They say in their second reasoning, which they did not tell us at the time, was that, oh, it's because it's unhealthy for the game because, sure, we get double the mesos on top of, frenzy, wild totem bonuses for mob kills, or drops in general. Now, again, if this is a low popularity item, the impact that this item would have on the game, making it quote unquote unhealthy, shouldn't exist. Except for maybe, the 0.28% of the sales, which they at that time deemed was unpopular and as well unhealthy for the game. Now, just for, the sake of not repeating myself a bunch, I think had they initially, told us, hey, the drops are too good, everybody is getting too many mesos, too many drops. Yeah, I'm sure the player base would be mad, but at least they would be understanding that, oh, we get it. Maplestory has to do what it has to do to keep this game running. But ultimately, I think their goal here is to get people to play the game longer, especially with the recent release of Lost Ark and Elden Ring. I'm positive Nexon has seen a hit to their player base, and I can actually see this through a lot of my own guildmates who have pretty much stopped playing the game since the release of Lost Ark. And, by doing this, sure, maybe you are getting players who do want to farm or whatnot to play for a longer period of time. But how many players are you going to lose as a result of, removing these items? I'm sure there's going to be players who are going to play this game with or without this, because I know a big portion of the player base actually doesn't even, bother to farm or boss or anything. And even for a player like me, I log in maybe once or twice a week to actually do something in the game. And when I do, I damn sure buy a 2x drop coupon when I'm doing my bosses. Primarily for one reason. So I'll take us back to Maplestory. So I just did my daily bosses in the game, and you can see here, this is pretty much the most prized drop from bosses currently is these Meister Cubes. They're great because for players who don't want to spend money on the game, you can actually get cubes and upgrade your equipment and progress in the game without having to spend money. Now these are the 4 Meister Cubes and 3 Master Cubes that I got from doing just my daily bosses and then C Vellum and C Bonbon. Say if I had a 2x drop coupon, maybe I would have gotten 8 and 6 of these. We don't know that. Again, a lot of it is up to chance, but say the 2x card works, as it's described, absolute multiplicative. You would expect that I'd get 8 of these cubes. Now, cubes that can cube legendary items are worth $1.20 each in Nexon's eyes. And I can actually say for certain that that's the value of these items at minimum because they sell red cubes at $1.20. You can see how it's valuable to a lot of game free-to-play players if they only have to spend 100 to 200 mil a week to get 1.5k Maple points to get these 2x drop coupons that can, reward them. Even if they got 2 extra Meister cubes from their daily bosses, the value of that 2x drop card would have been retrieved, returned. I guess, yeah, the return on, I guess, their investment would have been returned. I think this is why a lot of players are upset because, in my honest opinion, it is very difficult to progress and upgrade in Maplestory without having to spend money on whether it be cubes or NX to buy mesos from the meso market to buy godly items and whatnot. It's really difficult. So a lot of free-to-play players see this, oh, I can get a 2x drop coupon, I can use it, and maybe I get a decent amount of cubes in return, just help him progress every week. But now that's gone, and I guess Nexon deems this as unhealthy, mainly because if people are progressing too fast or whatnot, their incentive to play this game kind of decreases over time because once you reach the end game, which is ultimately why I ended up, semi-quitting this game, is because there's nothing to do once you reach the end game. And that's when a lot of players either quit or just stop logging on, which is really bad for, I guess, their numbers, right? We have to keep into account Nexon is a public company. Every single quarter, they have to give out an earnings call where they say whether or not GMS is profitable, whether or not their player base is improving. I'm sure they have detailed explanations or data on how long the average player plays, and they may or may not tell that in the earnings call. I don't know. I'm honestly not too invested into Nexon as a public company, but I'm sure they have all of this data that they're either holding on to or not releasing. Maybe they do release it. I don't know. But overall, the main idea is, or at least my thoughts or big takeaways is, if you really do love this game, playing less probably won't impact you. Playing more, you'll still get the EXP that you would, I guess, need to progress in the game. You just won't have, the resources that you would otherwise be getting prior. Now, another thing with this that kind of will counterbalance is if this supply does significantly decrease, say meso circulation in the game, one of the things that should balance off is the value of mesos overall. We can see here that currently to buy mesos, the desired price, the lowest desired price is 1350, which means for 100 million mesos, it's going to cost you 1,350 Maple points. Sell mesos is a little bit less, but this value has definitely since increased since Nexon initially released their statement saying that 2x drop cards are going to be removed. So if the value of mesos ends up increasing as a result of their removal of the 2x drop card, it should theoretically counterbalance the amount of meso supply that a player would be getting. The only thing that won't be is the cubes that and all the boss drops that I previously mentioned that some players heavily rely on. And yeah, it sucks to some degree, but I think at the end of the day, it shouldn't be that big of a problem. I know there's people capable of looting 500, 600 million mesos an hour now, and if that's cut to 250 to 300 million mesos, it shouldn't be the end of the world, especially because you just have to be a little more, wise about how you spend your mesos. And then the last point that I'm going to leave here today, which I hope Nexon addresses, is the current price of star forcing arcane gear, or just gear in general. So if I put my cape here right now, you can see it costs me about 139 million mesos to just click and attempt the star force once on this cape. Everybody, I think, in this game knows that our current meso cost is significantly higher than the star force price in KMS. Korean Maplestory. And if Nexon is going to try to slow down progression in this game and make it quote-unquote healthier, I think another thing they can do that will probably appease some of the stronger opinions out there is just reduce this cost of Star Force. I've looked at Korean Maplestory videos where people are, star forcing, And quite literally, our Star Force cost is almost twice that of Korean Maplestory's. Now, this is fair and makes sense in the sense that we can farm mesos with Frenzy Totem, with the 2x cash card coupon. So our meso per hour is significantly higher than Korean Maplestory's. So, it makes sense. Korean KMS has been able to function and, have a healthy economy in the game, so to speak, for the many, many years, um, with or without all these multipliers that we have. But we also have to consider that KMS also has a significantly larger player base. The player base themselves have a different mentality when it comes to playing games. And I feel like a lot of the people, especially in America, want instant gratification, and that being the biggest thing. You don't want to grind for 60 hours and get nowhere on your equipment, right? 60 hours, say you're making 200 mil an hour. What is that? 2 bill, like 12 billion mesos now? Without the use of a 2x card, you can use 12 billion mesos on literally the worst, lowest level gear, like say it's CRA armor, right? This is 57. You can use all 12 bill of that on your CRA armor and you will go back to zero. And that's an issue that a lot of people have been having. It's like, why would you play MapleStory, a game where you can work so hard and do everything right, but then when it comes to the RNG aspect of the game, you can literally lose hours and hours and hours worth of gains or progression because of the system they have in place. And now there's other games like this, other very, very popular games out there right now, say Lost Ark, say Valorant, say League of Legends. If you invested 60 hours into those games, you have something to show for it. And I'm not saying you don't have anything to show for it. Obviously, you'll have, EXP gain, your character growth. But when it comes to progression in MapleStory, you are pretty much held back by how good or how bad your gear is. And I think that's where a lot of the tension is because we're getting all of these changes to our game to slow down progression, but we're not getting anything in return. And I guess one of the biggest things that I see here is the meso cost for Star Force enhancement. But yeah, that's pretty much my little rant today. Let me know what you guys think down below in the description box. And as always, I will see you all next time. Peace!